what's going on? I'm really happy to bring you this video. I got some awesome footage from Budds Creek, Loretta Lynn's, the Baja Brawl, and English Town. Matt Woozy shot it from MXP TV, and I bought the footage off of him. So I'm gonna do some stationary stuff here, because what we're really gonna focus on is body positions and movements. It is so critical, man. That's where so much of your control comes from, because it would be simple if you didn't always have to move, because your bike, of course, underneath you is always moving. So your body always has to move. But how do you get the most efficiency out of your movements? Where's your movements come from? I call it the rider compartment. So I'm really going to show you that rider compartment and how the better riders, B and A riders, are working from that rider compartment. I mean, it's a big compartment because you can move way forward of it and way behind it. But you'll see that all your movements have to come from that rider compartment, from that central location. So let's get a wide angle and show you a little bit closer before we get into the action race footage and what these riders are doing with it. Okay, so where is this rider compartment? Like I said, it's from the handlebars to the foot pegs. So if you drew a straight line straight up above your foot pegs and then centered and straight back from your handlebars, that is your rider compartment. And then obviously the height has a lot to do with it. And everybody sets their bike up different according to their height. If you're taller, obviously you need a wider, bigger rider compartment. And opposite if you're shorter, of course. But the important thing about that rider location is the central location. And that is sitting on the front part of the seat, leaning your upper body far enough forward that your head is right over top of the handlebar mounts. That's the center location. You've seen that in my other videos probably. But we're going to get more in depth with it this time and how to work from that central location. More detailed. Because it is so important. So yeah, you're in the central location. That goes for both sitting and standing. And then all your movements come from that central location, side to side and back and forth, and everything in between. And if you're not in that central location, say you're back too far, which is the most common mistake of especially beginner riders. They're back too far. Well, they're moving, but they're not affecting the pivot point of the motorcycle. So the bike's not going to react and handle very well. They're trying to steer from back here. It doesn't steer very well. So being up here, being in central location is key. Now, most of the time, when you're accelerating pretty hard, you're going to be in front of the central location, both sitting and standing. If you're not accelerating, you're just kind of not really accelerating hard, not really braking hard, you should be in the central location. This is mostly through a corner. And if you're braking, you should be back behind the central location a little bit. And that goes for sitting and standing. So this is a compartment that you have to work in. I mean, sometimes you got to move way back of that central location, or sometimes you're way up forward in front of that central location. But most of the time, you're in it, and you're not moving very far out of it, most of the time. A lot of times, you think that the riders are moving a lot, but you'll see their body isn't moving very much. The bike's moving underneath them. For instance, going through braking bumps, the bike will teeter-totter underneath them, but they're working from that central location. Another place that most riders get this wrong, beginners especially, is they don't know how to be strong in the central location, especially standing. It's a big deal the way you stand with your hips and your back, and of course your arms too, but your hips and your back and legs is what's taking all the weight. That's your foundation, your support, where your arms are there to move your body position and work the controls, steer and balance. It's for balance and movement. It's not to support your body weight with your arms. If you're doing that, you're really wearing yourself out, and the bike's not going to react and handle very well for you. But some guys, when they stand up, I see them all the time in my schools, they don't know how to stand up on the bike. You see them standing like this all the time. Their back is usually rounded because they don't know what to do, and they can't wait to sit back down because it's not comfortable to stand that way. I always like to relate it to doing barbell squats. You know, when you do a barbell squat, you got to be, your butt's got to be out, your back's got to be straight, and you're in a strong position. That's the way you want to be on a motorcycle too, is in that strong position. So say standing in the central location, your knees should be above the foot pegs, and you're hinged down at the waist, the head's over the handlebars, and your back is kind of arched, like your butt's sticking out, or straight, at least straight, but not under you like this, and too far forward or too far back. You know, so you got to get comfortable in that central location, in that rider compartment, because you're going to be in that rider compartment the whole moto, mostly. Well, you have to be, really, standing or sitting. So get comfortable with it and learn how to use it to your advantage and be strong in it. And you're going to see a lot of footage now of these racers racing hard, A and B riders. And we're really going to slow it down, stop action, freeze frame, you know, the lines, the whole deal, so you can see what they're doing in that rider compartment. And I'll be narrating over it, explaining maybe little mistakes they're making, what they could have done better, or how they're doing it good. And hopefully you can pick up on it and do it too. Either way, it doesn't matter if you're on a 50, 65, 85, or big bike. These techniques are relative to all size bikes and riders. Okay, now to look at these racers and what they're doing with this central location and rider compartment. Here, number 19, you can see him going into this section. He has a good upper body stance with his head forward, hands and elbows up, so he has an open framework. You can tell he's looking ahead. And here he's going through some braking bumps, so his head's back a little bit further, but notice that rider compartment he's working in with his body structure. Now he's going from standing to sitting, and he swings his butt into the front part of the seat while keeping his head back because he's still slowing down for the corner. As he gets into the rut, he's leaning it way over, deep rut, foot way up out of his way. I'm sure he's still looking ahead. I think the soil was so soft it kind of slowed him down more than he was anticipating, so he's saving it by getting on a handful of throttle. And yeah, he keeps working it from that rider compartment, staying in control. And here you really notice how he's going through these braking bumps. Now in this section, notice how much he's moving his upper body, staying in that location that he needs to be in. But right here, notice how much he's moving his upper body from side to side. That's when I was talking about your arms have to be loose for movement and balance. That's exactly what he's doing. Support your weight in your legs and core. Let your upper body, arms move to control your balance and movement. Notice here how he's on the throttle, and then as he shuts off the throttle, his head goes back a little bit to start his braking, and now the bike teeter-totters underneath him. This rider over this jump, it's a good shot to show you how much movement there is. Body's way forward for the landing so he can absorb the landing as he rows back and down. These riders coming into a rough section, number 62, I would say he's more of an arm rider than he needs to be. It looks like he uses a lot of energy with his arms for support. You can tell his upper body's kind of stiff and he's manhandling the bike. He does a lot of movements because I believe he overcorrects certain things when he gets off balance a little bit. Good framework as far as elbows up, but I think he's using a lot of energy. Look at the big movements he makes to correct that little mistake of seat bouncing out of that rut. Lands pretty hard, and then another big movement here. And I can tell that his arms are stiff because he's absorbing a lot of the weight with his arms instead of his legs. And look at number 32, how much body movement it takes to control when he comes up a little bit short. He's way back, and then he's way forward into this next jump. A lot of body movement through there because they come up a little bit short, and it takes a lot more energy when you don't land just right. There's number 62 doing a pretty good section here where he's letting the bike teeter-totter underneath him through these bumps and staying in that central location. But man, I think he's still more of an arm rider than he needs to be, especially through this rough section. Yeah, big bumps, and he's working pretty hard with his arms, it looks like to me. Here's a good berm to explain some things with these riders. Got two ruts here. Good A group riders coming through there. Just check it out a little closer. See, number 81 is looking pretty good, but his arms are pretty low. Not having his hands and elbows up enough, but he does have good body positioning to exit the corner. At least his head is forward as he accelerates out of the corner. Number 37 looks good, but he's dragging the rear brake as he's been on the power already. Should have released that rear brake already. Number 19, pretty good positioning. Leaning it way over, foot's way up out of the way, but I don't like his outside foot on the arch with his toe sticking way out. Should be tucked in on the ball of his foot. Number 32 coming through here. Man, this guy looks like he's got the eye of the tiger, right? Things are looking good. His head looks like it's down, but I'm sure he's looking up out of the top of his eyes, so he's looking ahead. And overall, yeah, he's looking pretty good as he comes around the corner and really accelerates. I don't like that his foot is dangling on the outside foot peg where it should have pressure down on that outside peg, but his head is forward as he exits out of the corner. His elbow's relatively high for being wide open on the throttle, but not that loose foot on the outside. Didn't look good. Going through the braking bumps, accelerating, and then braking right here from the back of that rider compartment. Here we got another angle through this 10 Commandments at Loretta's. Now let's take a closer look at what number 22 is doing here. He seat bounced out of there, which is good, but instead of landing on the ball of his foot, he landed on the toe on the foot peg. He is looking ahead, which is good. Body positioning looks good. Now he's going to land in this trough and accelerate out to make a good jump out of the trough, which is good. Everything looks good, but look, he's on the toe. And that's not good, being on the toe on the foot peg when you have weight on the foot peg. Should be on the ball of his foot. But he's launching out and he's lifting his weight out of the rebound, so he gets more height and distance because he's going from doubling to tripling, and that's why his feet are off the foot pegs. Gets a good landing on there, makes another little jump, and he's on his way. And there's another lift out of the foot pegs for more height, and another for more height. You see him lifting off of the foot pegs on that rebound to get more height and distance. How deep those ruts are. Here we go through this corner. Yeah, different angle through the 10 Commandments of Loretta's. See it from the backside. Same thing. Let's check him out coming down into this corner. Number 37 is coming in, standing up because it's rough, into that rut, leans it over good, and then drops into the berm. Number 22 doing the same thing, controlling the front and rear brake, clutch and throttle all the way to the transition. See a slow-mo of that launch. There he scrubs it a little bit to stay low over that double and then pops it up out of that trip to get the triple. A lot of clutch and throttle power. and helping that compression and rebound to jump with more height and distance. All done from the rider compartment. The 37 jumping through these sand rollers, looking pretty good. Little better race action there from Englishtown, New Jersey. Now let's take a closer look to see what these riders are doing with their body positions and movements. This guy is off the throttle to stay low on the jump. Notice how he moves back and then back forward from that rider compartment. Here coming up through, off the throttle, so he has to move back upon rebound and then back forward for the landing. Here's another good rutted corner. See some riders going through this rough section that's rutted and rough. There's a kicker jump right in the top of that rut. It's a pretty difficult section, but they're all working from the rider compartment central location. Here you see is still on the brakes, finger on the front brake and clutch as he sets the bike into the rut early, leaning over early, and then drops it in at the transition. It looks like his upper body is pretty good, but his head's back a little bit too far. Notice the next line. It should be up there a little bit further because he is accelerating out of the corner. Now he's coming around for the little single jump and then right into that rutted jump with the boom, kicker right at the top. This guy's going to do the same thing on a little bit different line. Bam, see that kicker? You've got to be moving at the right time with that to keep the front end from dropping too much. From that central location, man, from that rider compartment. That guy got angled in a little bit sideways, so he had to correct. He was nice and straight. This guy's going through the rut pretty darn good, dropping in nice, looking forward, heads over the handlebars, finger on the front or the clutch, and the ball of his foot on the outside foot peg, foot's up out of the way on the inside, all looking pretty darn good. Now this looks like a very good young rider, but let's look a little deeper and see if we can't find some things that he could be doing better. Looks really good, doesn't it? Yep, he's fast. He's riding good on this rough track, but he doesn't have a good stance when he's standing up. He's not putting himself in a strong position. Notice how his back is rounded because he has his butt kind of tucked under him. So that's not a strong position to be riding in. And you can see it here again when he's standing a little taller. His back is still rounded because his hips are tucked under. He would be better off if he learned to ride in a stronger central location, that's be stronger in that rider compartment. He also has a tendency to twist his upper body out of the corner instead of leading into the corner with his outside shoulder. He's doing just the opposite by twisting out of the corner. Just a couple little things that he could work on and, improve even more. You see it here again when he's standing up going into this corner. Same thing, his upper body starting at his hips. His hips are twisted to the outside, so his upper body follows that. Coincidentally, here's our number 91 rider again, and you know, those default programs bundled up with those bad habits keep happening over and over again. You take them with you everywhere you go. You notice he's twisting his upper body, his shoulders out of the corner. It's all starting in his hips. His whole upper body from his hips up twist out of the corner. Man, you got to identify your bad habits, and then through repetition in a practice drill set up just for that bad habit, break it. Okay, we're going to see some good footage from pro rider Tyler Woosney at Budds Creek. It's not really sandy, but it's got a lot of good cushion berms. Notice here how he really leans into that cushion berm, because that's where he has the most traction to make his turn. Here you see him going off the tabletop and staying in that rider compartment, moving forward, and then kind of moving back as he gets into this 180 corner, leaning it way over. And notice how he has to get on the power early to swing that rear end around. Right here, he's already right there. He gets on the power hard, swings that back end around, and steers out of the corner with the rear wheel. Then off this tabletop, working from that rider compartment and then getting in front of it for the landing because he's on the throttle hard. Notice how he clicks a downshift in the air on this tabletop. Got a finger on the clutch. Notice right there his foot clicks a downshift. And this 180 corner is pretty tight. And he's braking hard into the corner and then really leaning it over, and then at that transition he has to get on the power hard to keep from falling to the inside. Notice how hard he's braking. His back tire is actually locked up, which is okay in a tight corner like this. And then once he gets into the transition, drops it in, and he has to get on the power early and pretty hard to keep it from falling to the inside. He's committing to that lean, and then bam, on the power. It's okay that he went from standing to sitting at the transition because it was rough all the way into the corner. And here's a good demonstration of working from that rider compartment with Tyler staying in the center of the bike and good body positioning. Now you see this rider where he's getting his body to the outside and then he can't pull it back. It's just out of the center of balance. So you see a good comparison there with Tyler on the left, central, good balance. The guy on the right is stuck on the outside. And I realize that it's hard for a lot of riders to get out there and practice 3 or 4 times a week on the bike. That's why I made these stationary on the bike stand practice drills, where you can practice all the proper techniques, what you're doing with your hands, arms, body positions and movements, what you're doing with your feet on the foot pegs, and practice them through repetition, man. All you need is your bike stand. Make sure to put a block under each tire to keep it stable. By practicing these on the bike stand practice drills frequently, it'll make it a whole lot easier to learn these proper techniques on the motocross track. These on the bike stand practice drills are in your subscription.